Good morning, everyone. So I understand they've got a pretty exciting day, lots of new things to share with everyone. And so we can't be more excited about what the digital services team is accomplishing. And I think as you have probably seen some of it already, but as it's really come together and the rollout of the new brand and the new platform is just really exciting. So this is the sixth year that GOVTalks is 6 year, sixth event, 6 year. Wow. Has been underway. And again, pulling this group together, who's really the team that gets the different messages out to the citizens that consume your services. It's just really important, not only about the message, but how easy it is for those citizens to be served and what they can find. So it truly is, this is the forefront, reaching out, grabbing those individuals. And as we look and see where the web has come and the interfaces that we interact with, the channels, the web is now the most used channel for citizens to find not only who they want to interact with in state government, but also how they interact. So it's just really important what you're doing. And I really think as we talk about the new platform, how that is enabling our technology foundation that's been built here to be leveraged in so many new ways, using the same content in just different channels that we are prepared for going forward to leverage in an even greater way. So it's pretty exciting that those things are happening today versus it's all about what's happening in the future, that we've had the opportunity to make some key investments in the state so that you can leverage those investments within your agencies and really have something that I think is unique from other state governments, but also keeping us there with a lot of the private sector and what we're trying to accomplish. So really excited about it. Do want to just highlight one area. We really need your help, and I'm going to say your teamwork and participation as the rollouts occur, that your teams are focused and ready to. We have a pretty aggressive schedule. I think Nikhil will talk a little bit about the fact that the new administration is very interested in this area, watching it closely. And so we want to make sure that we're all working as a team and making sure that this happens correctly and that we do it in a very collaborative way to make sure that your needs are being met at the end of the day. So, and I think at the end, we all will be very proud of what we've accomplished. And then my last word is a thank you in advance to the folks in this room for making that happen and moving the state forward, and also to the digital services team. They've already invested a lot of time and hard work to get us to this point. And so thank you all for all the work that you continue to do. And with that, I'll let you actually get to what everybody's showed up to hear about.
Well, good morning again. And I know some of you kind of sometimes step out or have other things to do. So before we conclude the day, I really just wanted to kind of give a big shout out to the digital services team for putting this together, but not only just this is just a mirror on what we have been working on. What I actually get to see, which a lot of you might not, is like how every ticket coming in is just dealt with such care and such thought, and how it affects the current platform versus how it will affect the next platform. So before I jump into talking about all the things that we are envisioning and hoping to do, working with you and hoping to serve our citizens and constituents as well as we can, I really wanted to just kind of take this in a moment to just kind of give it up to the digital services team. And thank you. So let's get into this. As you're probably reading, your website has a new role. What does that mean? For those who don't know me, have not interacted with me, my name is Nikhil Deshpande. I'm part of the digital services team, also the Chief Digital Officer, and I'm so happy to have been working with most of you, almost all of you, for the last 10 so years, on your websites and on your content, making sure that we deliver things, the way our constituents, people are expecting from agencies. Digital services, if you are new to the platform or interacting with us, the focus of digital services is to make people's, Georgians' interactions with state government as frictionless and fulfilling. Because as we can all, as constituents, kind of attest to, is sometimes dealing with any level of government, being it like paying a parking ticket or your water bill or filing your taxes. We're not the most overjoyed in our mindset in doing those things. And on top of that, when interactions become frustrating, the frustration just quadruples, right? So this is where we work with everyone to get the same level of experience for Georgians that they're used to from private sector. So we truly believe in offering people-centric services and facilitate any decisions with data, because numbers really speak for themselves and they're way better than opinions. So for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to be talking about this digital transformation journey that we have been kind of working on for the last many months and give you a status of like where we are, especially focused on the customer, on the content management system. Then also I'm going to talk about how this really kind of gives each of us a great opportunity to measure our website's impact and how the new platform will truly help us also see that impact grow. And then I want to end with what is pretty much the theme of this day is the future of your content. Clearly, we are migrating content, but we are migrating content from a very different system to a future-facing system. So how does that change? How the new system enables you to maintain your content. So let's talk about digital transformation. One of the big buzzwords that are you just cannot get away from having digital transformation show up in your maybe email inbox or go to a conference where they talk about digital transformation. What does that really mean for us, right? So the actual meaning is essentially moving from a physical state to a digital state for any system. But moving to a digital state really is just the starting point, right? So it's more than just the move, because the system really touches, the technology really touches like all aspect of like human expectations and behavior. So we have to be really aware of like what we are building towards when we just say we are digitizing something. So let's just take a quick historic view of the current system that you are using for your website was built in 2012. These were some of the numbers that we kind of saw back then. We had 50 websites that we were moving from a legacy platform onto Drupal 7. We had about 57 million page views, 12.4 million users, 23 million sessions, and 3.8 million mobile sessions. Fast forward 2018, the websites went up to 85, 145 million page views, 24.1 million users, 60 million some sessions, and 28 million mobile sessions. Now, clearly, I cannot expect you to just do like a visual comparison in your mind. So here it goes. So as you can see, our page views grew substantially. So did our users. And with users, our sessions actually grew way more than the users did. And this was really shocking. Mobile. The mobile usage just skyrocketed. So we could not consider any of these metrics going forward when we are planning for our future platform, right? But just looking at the amount of success the previous platform had as far as overall traffic is concerned, really should make us feel happy. So yay, we won the internet, let's go home. We're done. No, we're not. Because when building this new platform, we also conducted some qualitative studies, more than just numbers. We spoke to users and we understood what they're trying to do, what they are expecting us to deliver. And this is just like one of the very few things that I'm going to be sharing with you. But if you're interested, like we have a list of these findings that we have from our users, right? So a lot of these just basically pointed to the fact that we still have a lot more work to do, because our users, along with the growth of our platform from traffic, the user expectation also grew, because the private sector got so much mature in delivering what the users were expecting that when they turned to government for transacting, they were like, oh my God, this is like a time machine taking me back 20 years ago. So this was the biggest finding, I would say, that was resonated across anybody we spoke to, is people were just like, we just look at government as monolith, right? Like, it's great that you're a state, and within the state, it's great that you're department of this or that, but we are just expecting to do what we want to do within, a minute or two and be done. So that's when we realized, like, yes, we built this platform back when things were pretty simple and straightforward. People knew where to go, what to do. People typically had bookmarks. But then as things grew, they really started relying on search engines. And that's when we realized it's not enough for us to have content that's only understandable for users. We really have to have content that's truly has meaning for search engines. So what we did in the past is, let's have a Georgia Gov where it can speak to the search engine and we can reflect some of the content. So we literally duplicated content from where it's sitting on your website, and Georgia Gov has a more search engine friendly content. And we saw that shift happen where search engine, you put anything in search engine and most of the links that show up are Georgia Gov links. So while that's great, it's still a disconnected presence. So what we started putting this new platform together was how can we have a common content structure that search engines understand? So instead of having multiple sites doing their own thing, we can all come together, agree on a certain terminology, a certain vocabulary, and then start delivering content. What our users ideally want and expect is all of that being just a one singular experience, regardless of having multiple sites or one site. If the content is structured in the same way, if the content presents itself in the same way, that is exactly what they are looking for. And not just from the website, but also from any of these channels that they go. Because a lot of the times, people just only rely on their mobile phones or social media to seek answers. So we cannot have any variations in our message right there, right? So we spoke to a bunch of people across Georgia in many towns, the metro, smaller areas, some internal stakeholders. And this was something we talked about in the previous GovTalks, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But we found that there are a big set of Georgians who are what we categorize as the vulnerable population that really depends on the state for maybe their next meal. Then there is the customer who is maybe a business owner who is looking to interact with the state purely from a transactional perspective. Each of them may have a very different set of technology that they're using to interact with the state, right? And then there are these advocate groups and organizer groups which essentially help each of these groups to interact and to help them transact. Another underlying theme that we heard from almost everyone is everyone expects the state to be more approachable than official. And it's really interesting to kind of see the vocabulary that they use because they wanted the state to still be official, but not very, very official. They wanted it to be modern, but not very modern, where they cannot differentiate between maybe just like a site hosted on GoDaddy versus a state site. So this was one piece of our research. The other piece was turning internal. What is what is our expectation from how we want to deliver? What are our challenges? We wanted to build a platform that works for both, right? So we also heard a lot of the wish lists and challenges and aspirations of how we want to deliver. And looking through the different verticals of our state agencies as far as content delivery, as far as the mission is concerned, we came up with a list of things that we need to make sure our new platform reflects. So the balance between this, right, where most of the agencies were like, yes, we want to make our content really friendly with plain language, but we also deal with legal terminology. Like, how do we do that? How does that work? And that's a true challenge, and that is something where we will be happy to help you with. So having said that, we are at this point where I can very happily announce that we have launched our new D8 platform, and we are calling it GovHub. And it is a very specific Georgia-centric platform that we have built, which is obviously very secure. It is accessible out of the core, and it is mobile first, as you can see what our mobile numbers look like. So being based in Drupal 8, which is by itself mobile first in its core, it was very helpful for us to just build on top of that. It also offers a way better structured content. We were already using some structured content, but for many agencies, it was easy to just create an unstructured site page and copy and paste content on it. What happens with that is it just becomes something that search engines cannot understand. And as you saw, search engines are predominant customers for us to connect with our constituents. So structured content really makes it better for search. And the way we do it is by using a lot of schema.org vocabulary terminologies that search engines understand. It is a shared vocabulary that really kind of content creators and search engines use. So every time we wonder, like, what is that secret juice for Google to find something that's hosted, it's truly using the right way of presenting content. And last but not the least, analytics. Each of you truly has, at this point, analytics baked into your site themes, templates. But with the new platform, we are making it easier for you to access those. We're making it easier for you to comprehend what those numbers mean, what those numbers say. So we are using a combination of tools to do that. And some of you are using Site Improve as a tool. But going forward, the new platform will have Site Improve as pretty much everywhere for all the sites. The second piece that we learned as far as the consistent look and feel is something that we are addressing through a design system. So Orchard is Georgia's official design system, and we are making sure that we leverage this design system. And for those of you who are new to the concept of design system, it truly is a design guideline and code that it offers to help anyone to be consistent with our brand standards and the new designs that we have created. It is definitely a trustworthy way of presenting ourselves and any of our digital properties, so that you don't need to be on this platform to use this design system. You could be your own website using Drupal, or an application which is more transactional, but still be using the design system, still be using the same colors and the consistency to make sure that the end user has a very seamless, frictionless experience. And just reduce all the visual disconnects. So for those of you, again, are new to this, we came up with this as the new state brand. We can say this is pretty much kind of based on our state seal. But this was based on the findings again, where people were like, well, the seal used to be like the official thing, but like everyone has so many versions of the seal, we just don't know which seal to trust. And also the digital aspect of it, like we can scale this and put this up on our browser as a favicon, and at that scale, it is still recognizable. But at this point, the overall balance of like what people are looking for something to be modern but official, is something that this truly answered and tested really well. So the trustworthy, accessible, consistent aspect of this brand that we wanted to scale starts out from this, what we call as the pillars. But this is a good start, and we are applying this across to the new platform, along with some colors. We also we are very aware that some of the agencies would need some variations in color. So we're not trying to kind of just have one solution fit everything approach, but the variation within that approach is something that we will be working with. We want to make sure like we don't go way off from where our overall brand requires us. Truly what this means is it is still an ongoing process. So from a digital transformation perspective, there is really no end state. Because by the time we come to an end in making sure we all achieve this consistency, there will be like the next Alexas and Google Home sprouting across the market that we need to make sure how can we serve those, and how can we make our websites like watch friendly. Who knows what comes up, right? What the next thing we really think is a key thing for us to all be mindful of is at this point measuring our impact. And that is really key, because at this point, regardless of like how we present ourselves, how we display our site, like we want to always be make sure that we are being successful in the reason why we have our website in the first place. Just pull in a good old Peter Drucker here. Like you can't manage what you can't measure, right? I mean, seriously, what it means is like you can't know whether or not you're successful unless you define success, and if you know how you're doing, how you're faring. So it really boils down to numbers, because we know with numbers we can truly have data that tells us if a certain success factor is met or not. A few months ago, we rolled out this analytics dashboard, and I contacted almost all of the agency leadership sharing this link. And this was truly in the spirit of transparency, and this is not just Georgia. Many other organizations, I'm not sure how many other states have done this, but this is something the federal government had done, and we just used their code, we forked their code, and we implemented it within our organizations. It is something that gives you a very high level cliff notes of how we are doing as our website performance is concerned, primarily traffic-based, but also the usage. Like, what are the browsers people are using? What are some of the operating systems? Where are they coming from? And what are some of the top viewed pages? And it changes, and it gives us a good information, but it's a starting point. This is not the end point. It truly is a starting point because it gets that conversation going. It was really also very amusing for me to see most leaders from a certain agency also wanted to see how other agencies were doing compared to them, who had more page views. But this dashboard really made us self-aware of how we are doing just from a traffic perspective. But there's so many other numbers. For example, this is a great overall view. But for us as digital services, I think this dashboard for us from a service delivery makes more sense. Each dot up here, or rather each bubble up here, is you. Somewhere or the other, as you can see, there are certain acronyms on them. But on the y-axis, we have like the page views and the mobile traffic on the other, and then the size of the dot is your actual size of the content. How many thousands of documents or pages you have, accordingly your dot gets bigger. Right? I mean, this is great for us to be able to serve you and make sure you are successful. But we also see that some of you have like way more mobile traffic, right? So that purple dot, if that comes and talks to us about doing something, we're going to be like constantly saying, is that going to be mobile friendly? Is that going to be something that people are going to be using mobile devices and be able to access, right? Because they're like way past the mobile majority here. So this is truly something that different numbers say different things. Different numbers help us understand what our metrics are, what our goals are. And this is something, I guess, as a framework we can apply to the agency sites as well. So when you talk about metrics, we have baseline metrics and we have some actionable metrics. When we talk about goals, we have agency goals and then we have customer goals. So if we just kind of like lay it on like a chart up here, we can see that the baseline metrics and the actionable metrics on the Y and the agency and the customer matrix, like we can have like these 4 quadrants. And all the numbers that we saw on the analytics dashboard pretty much sit within the baseline metrics and the agency metrics. Those are not something that your customers, your constituents are interested in knowing, like how many page views you get, right? That's purely from an agency perspective. Also, that's not anything that's actionable. Knowing I get 100,000 page views doesn't really give me any action. It's just a good to know metrics. What we really need to kind of be focusing on is the other quadrant, which is what are our conversions? What are our searches telling us? What are our journeys informing us? Which is, conversion is a typical like marketing term, but for any other website that doesn't sell anything, just the fact that someone comes to a certain page to be informed about something and they get that piece of content is conversion for us. They did not swipe a card to be converted from a visitor to a customer. Same thing with searches. Searches is a great opportunity for us to understand what user vocabularies are. If someone searches for a certificate that you are trying to kind of offer, if they call it something else, not a certificate, that is a chance for you to understand what they call it. And even if you don't name it in the title of that, but somewhere if you kind of repeat that, it will be connecting your page to the search engines when they search using those words. And same thing with journeys. If you have been attending, or if you have attended in the past, our content workshops that we do, where we talk about journey mapping, that is something that is very informative and insightful for you to understand where people start from and where people end, and that defines their journey. And that's your opportunity to kind of make the most impact. But in most cases, what I've seen is we only resort to down here and make this as like the endpoint, and that is dangerous because really kind of like what that tells us is If we only focus on that, it just becomes vanity metrics. It does not translate to anything that is actionable. And we don't want that, right? So we want to make sure that we focus on our actionable metrics, and we really kind of take this in our planning. So how do we do this, right? So just as an example, Georgia Gov traffic source. As you can see up here, most of our traffic, about 70% of our traffic comes from search engines. So that means only about, and this is just all the major search engines. I'm not even counting DuckDuckGo. 20% people come direct to us. So that means they may have something bookmarked, or they get something in an email where they click on that link and land on certain page. But most of our traffic truly comes from search engines. So we have no way of controlling where the search engines are sending them. Going forward, we can also see that the direct traffic lands everywhere. We also have some stats on where people, the page views, how much time they spend per session, how many pages they click. That also shows us like where they go. This is like an example of journey where they start from here, they go here, then they are sent here. And this is an organic way of kind of them exploring your site. What you can do is understand this and then try and change that. Again, I talked about searches within your site. Keep an eye on what the pages are, what the search terms are. Point being, any page can be your landing page. Looking at the Georgia Gov traffic, 2 or 3 clicks is really what users expect to get to the endpoint, and less than 2 minutes is what their patience level is to find the content, to find that information. Otherwise, they are going to go somewhere else. Also, when you make your content search engine friendly, Google understands it, and people just expect anything that bubbles up on Google is the right answer for them. If someone hacks the system to just make bad content Google friendly and they go on top of your website, there is nothing we can do about it, right, as a team. So that takes me to the future of your content, and let me just make sure we understand this. So future of the content is really structured and connected. So 3 years ago, I talked about what structured content means. And this was my first aha moment of a structured content, which is, again, all of us know what this is. We go through this delightful process of filing our taxes. So W-2 has so much information on it, but because it has a specific place for that information to sit, it makes sense. And for someone to be processing this in a different world than us, it makes it easy for them because it's predictable, it's understandable. Where we saw this was helpful was, let me see if this works. All right, there was supposed to be a video here, but I don't know if, it's not that important, but the video basically showed that W2, a phone taking a picture of that, and TurboTax is automatically filing your taxes, right? And the video made it seem like it's magic. It's really not magic. It's structured content. It's the reason why your content sat in that place. TurboTax was able to just make sense of it and then automatically process it into your tax returns. So point being is when our content gets on a website and looks for us, it looks as a web page. It really need not be a page, but it's an individual piece of content that is put together. And in this new system, what we are offering is each of that content is a content item, right? So for example, each of you have an agency head, and that person's information reference is repeated across several pages or several places of your agency. What if that changes? Or it need not be an agency head, it could be an employee, it could be a service. What if that changes? Will you go back hundreds of pages and change it? Or you could just go to one place, update that information, and then automatically that system just changes it everywhere. And this is where, just not within your site. If your content is structured, you can also syndicate it across. So these could be multiple agency websites, and all of these people could be aggregated up to Georgia Gov. Or these could be services that could be aggregated up to Georgia Gov, right? So point being is, Webpages is really not the final destination anymore. It's really not. It is really the content types that make your content, grow legs and just breaks it off the web page. So I want to end this with a quick Freakonomics moment, and the person who actually answers my question will get a Georgia Gov t-shirt. I'm guessing everyone's aware of Freakonomics, right? It's just basically the hidden side of everything that we don't know, but we have to dig to find out, like what was actually happening that showed us a certain effect. We have to find the cause. So this is AT&T's mobile data volumes. And as you can see, like through 2007, it was like pretty flat, and right at 2007, it just spiked up. What do you think had happened? Alrighty, Steve.
Okay, that wasn't fair.
I
work with you.
Okay. Did somebody else say anything? Oh, there you go. Let me get. Can you pass the T-shirt? iPhone. Yes, right. It was the iPhone, right? Like it was the concept of data being served to use on mobile phones was not new, but the iPhone just unlocked what we really wanted to do, and it enabled that usage. And that's why it surged so much, right? And I feel like with content and with this new system, it is similar. We have the content, now we have the system that actually breaks it free, and we will know that there are going to be people hungry for your content to be, using it for different purposes. And this will truly create that demand of like, they want to know more from you, and they'll have different ways to hook into your website. So if you have not gone through this content strategy certification, please register. There is a sign up on the website. Wherever we come up with our dates, they will be announced up there. But we want to know who is interested in signing up for this course. It goes through everything, right from understanding our users, developing our personas, the customer journeys, as I talked about. How do you write for the web, that is more search engine friendly, and also at the same time plain language, analyzing your analytics and accessibility. And also we help you do content audits. So by all means, please go and sign up for this if you have not. Because as we saw, technology, design, and everything will change. What will stay is your content. And right from those W-2s, we figured out a way to kind of just take something printed on the paper to now automatically digitally file your taxes. Same thing will happen here. So embrace all these new content types. You will learn a lot about them in the breakouts later after lunch. You will actually get to ask a lot of questions, and we'll be happy to answer any of those. If you have any questions, regardless, also sign up for office hours. We have like a sheet going around where you can sign up for office hours, and we'll be happy to hop on a call or meet with you and answer your questions. Or if anything, I'm just sharing Yen, our outreach director's email here with you. And I'm sorry, Yen, your inbox may explode, but Yen will be more than happy to just take your questions, and we'll figure out the best way to answer them. So thank you again. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day.